Welcome into the Saints Insider Postgame Show, brought to you by the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com. I'm Zach Ewing with Jim Derry here live from the Caesars Superdome, where we saw something we haven't seen in a long time at the Superdome. We saw a tie today. I don't know when the last Saints tie was in the Dome. We got to look that up.
Yeah. I don't remember the last tie. I don't remember the last tie that the Saints have had, period. So that's definitely one to go back in the record books. It's been a long time since the Saints have had a tie.
Obviously, in the preseason, you don't play overtime, and so ties are more likely.
And it doesn't count. So.
Yeah, and it doesn't count. But we do know the Saints will not lose every game they play this year because Spencer Rattler threw a touchdown pass to Dante Pettis with 17 seconds left, then runs for a 2-point conversion. And then Jonas Sanker, the rookie safety, gets a tip drill interception to stall out Jacksonville's last second drive, returns it all the way into Jaguars territory, but goes out of bounds just after the clock expires, preventing the Saints from trying their own winning field goal at the end. It was pretty exciting. I mean, for a preseason game, which I don't care who you are, at some point during a preseason game, you start to kind of, you get that 1,000-mile stare and you're like, how much time is left in the third quarter? Like, it happens every preseason game. This one got you out of your seat for the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, you wish Sanker would have gone out of bounds there a little bit earlier, but he's not thinking that probably in his head. He's thinking, I got to score in a pick six, so I got a chance to get a pick six, and it helps his chances to make this roster. So that's what he's thinking there. But look, I mean, when it comes down to it, the Saints have now scored 30 points in 2 preseason games, and an average of 15 is even worse than last year's regular season average. So, I mean, that's concerning.
I do think the late touchdown changes the narrative in several ways, and we can talk about that. But, yeah, the truth of the matter is it took the Saints 59 and a half minutes to score an offensive to score any touchdown today. And last week they only had 1 touchdown in L.A. against the Chargers. And so this offense clearly struggling. This one was against fourth stringers. You know, Spencer Rattler got them down there earlier in the fourth quarter and then threw an awful interception. And we'll talk about the quarterbacks in a minute, but this offense clearly is going to be a work in progress. And by the way, Eric McCoy did not play, Alvin Kamara did not play, but today you did see the offensive line, the rest of the starting offensive line stayed in longer. The starting wide receivers, Chris Olave.
3 of the 5 started.
Yeah, well, if Trevor Penning's hurt, it's 4 of the 5 because Dylan Radins is your starter. Both of your top 2 wide receivers played the entire first half, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and yet still the ball was not moving.
Yeah, I mean, but again, too, it's hard to put. I always say it's hard to put anything in the preseason. The preseason is nothing to me but an eye test. Period. Stats don't matter. Play calling is completely different in preseason than what you'll see in a regular season. It's as vanilla gets. The 2 quarterbacks played. They just switched roles from last week. Spencer Rattler was dink and dunk last week, and this week was a little bit more open. Just like Shough was a little bit more open last week, and this week he did throw 1 long pass, but he also was more dink and dunk. So, I don't know how much you can tell from anything really. Again, preseason, man, I don't care. I'm sure we'll talk about stats today, but and I'll probably talk about it tomorrow morning on the Data 2 podcast a little bit, but it's really more about eye test to me and what we saw out there.
So this is the Saints Insider Postgame Show. This is how it will work. You can show your questions or comments. Type them in. Our sports editor, Patrick McGee, is producing this show. He will throw up some of the comments. He may even text them to me so that
I hope you can read that.
So that Jim and I can respond to any of those, or maybe some of them will just let y'all have your say. So that's how this will work. And then as we go forward,
I can read this one for you. There's Taylor DeMarco says, fair to say Cesar Ruiz has been the biggest disappointment so far, seems to be regressing. Again, I mean, what are we judging by in preseason? I mean, so I'm not going to make any judgment on anyone really as far as those sorts of things. I mean, we know who the starters are. Someone's going to have to make a judgment on who the quarterback 1 is. Someone's going to have to make a judgment on RB2 is. But Cesar Ruiz is your starting right guard, and so it is what it is.
Is he going to have to play better? Yes, he is. He is going to have to play better. You can't have regression at a spot like that when you have so many other problems. But it's the preseason. Like, he played a half today. Don't think he looked great. Last week he barely played at all, so I don't take too much from that. And we'll see. The Saints do have one more preseason game in just 6 days' time. On Saturday, they play the Denver Broncos here in the Dome, and that'll be that for the preseason. it's interesting. And then I should say the rest of the way the show working, about 30 minutes or so, our writers will emerge from the Saints press conference and locker room area. They will have attended the Kellen Moore press conference. I think both quarterbacks are going to have their own press conference, Tyler Shough, Spencer Rattler. They'll also go to the locker room and talk to some of the other players, and then they'll come back out here and tell us what they heard and what they think.
The Northern Saint says, a tie is better than a loss, I think. Players,
yeah, I got it right here. Yeah, Spence, Tipton, Sanker, and Stutzman. Yeah, I mean, Mason Tipton, look, we can spend a minute on him before we dig into the quarterbacks. Mason Tipton was the camp darling last year as an undrafted rookie, but he ultimately never really showed it in a game, whether in the preseason or the regular season. I think he caught like 7 passes all year or something. The Saints kept him around. He's showing it in games this year. He caught the long TD last week from Tyler Shough. He caught a long pass this week from Spencer Rattler, 2 of them actually, and he's just sort of showing up more often. I think there's a possibility Mason Tipton is your third wide receiver on this team.
It depends on where Brandon Cooks is. Is he going to start the season healthy? Bob Means we know is going to be out. Cedric Wilson, where is he at? So, yeah, he has a chance to make it. I really think he's kind of fighting Dante Pettis, right? I mean, because Dante Pettis has a leg up on him because he plays special teams. Look, I want Mason Tipton to make this team. I think he has a chance to be a decent receiver in this league, not just from what we saw last year, but, again, what we're seeing again here in camp and eye test. Eye test tells me he made some pretty good catches along the sideline today. He doesn't mind getting hit, and the Saints need that. So I hope he makes this team.
I don't think there's any question he makes the team. The question is, how much does he play? Right. Dante Pettis did catch the touchdown from Spencer Rattler late. Rattler was weird, man. And I guess this is a good time. We'll dig into the quarterbacks and we'll talk to our writers about them as well. But as Brian Russell says, it's going to be a long season. Yeah. That depends on the quarterbacks, right? Like, you have to see growth from these guys. And as you mentioned, Jim, it's a little bit the inverse of last week. Like
it's almost exactly the opposite.
You have the starter who seems to be more careful. Last week Rattler didn't have any points in 5 drives. Shough did lead a field goal drive today. And he also didn't turn the ball over. Rattler turned the ball over last week. Then the guy who comes in second, last week it was Tyler Shough, puts up much bigger numbers. Today that was Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler finishes with 199 yards and the touchdown. He also threw an interception, just like Shough did last week. So, yeah, I mean, both of them had a bad interception, but both of them had a touchdown. So, from that perspective, it is even. I will also caution that Spencer Rattler was playing against a Jacksonville defense. At some point before the touchdown drive, you and I looked at each other in the press box and said, how many players out there are actually going to make the 53-man roster? And for Jacksonville's defense, it was like, I'm not sure any of these guys are. I mean, they're all buried on the depth chart. And so, do you give Spencer Rattler credit for the closing touchdown? Yes, you do. Sure. Can you give him a clear and convincing victory over Tyler Shough today? I don't think so.
Well, here's my thing. I'm going to say this about Spencer Rattler that I've been saying since day one that I want to see from Spencer Rattler is that I want to see him when he's carefree and just lets it go. Of course, he's going to make some mistakes. I think the interception was he was pressing too much. We see him make the most mistakes when it looks like he's pressing and he knows he needs to have this great game. What happened on that 2-minute drill? Just let it go.
Yeah.
There's no question the guy has the athleticism to play.
Used his legs. Yeah.
So, and it's not just that. He just doesn't think. I mean, it's kind of the old movie line. Don't think, Meek, just throw. And I joke about that, but I'm serious about when it comes to Spencer Rattler. He showed us, I don't care that it was against the third or fourth string. He shows that he has potential. But look, in the grand scheme of things, I'm going to say this, and I know it's going to, judging by the roar of the crowd on that touchdown pass, that wasn't because the Saints were about to tie the game. It was because it was Spencer Rattler. Let's not fool ourselves. Judging by the roar of the crowd, this will be an unpopular opinion, but it's been my opinion since day one. It's my opinion today. This has to be a clear-cut win for Spencer Rattler to win this QB1 race. And right now, it's almost as even can be. And the tie goes to the runner, and the runner is Tyler Shough.
I still think Rattler's ahead. I don't know how convincing it is.
It's not a race.
But if you include the practices in which Rattler has looked a little bit better from all reports, so you're basing it solely on 2 preseason games, no training camp.
I'm not basing it on any of that, honestly. I'm basing it on, and I said this on my show, that people are assuming that this was actually an open competition, which is just because what Kellen Moore said. It was never. It's my belief. There's no way to prove this until we find out who wins the race, and he's never going to say this. But it is my true belief that this was never an open competition, and the only way that Spencer Rattler was ever going to win this job, it's not over because he hasn't announced anything. The only way that Spencer Rattler was going to win this job is if Shough was just that bad and Rattler was that good. And I have not seen that. They've both been meh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They've both been meh. And so the tie goes to the runner, and the runner is Tyler Shough.
Comment up there right now is from David. Shough looked rough at times, like maybe he was pressing, maybe a couple of good throws. Rattler did okay. Pick was bad, but nice rebound from that. I will say this on Shough. He was sacked twice in the first half, and one of those you could say he probably should have gotten rid of the ball. The other one, I'm not sure how much chance he had. That was the one where he just tripped. Okay. I mean,
I thought this. Well, he tripped. That was his own fault.
I guess you could blame him for tripping.
I do blame him for tripping. But the other one, he was bum rushed, and I didn't think he had any time whatsoever.
Yeah. No, that's true. He did, but he finished 9 of 12 for 66 yards, and
passer ratings were pretty close.
A couple of notes on Rattler was 95.7, Shough was 87.5, so pretty close there. But I will say this on Shough. Okay, Shough was 9 of 12. One of the incompletions was an intentional grounding, which I think you probably also give him some discredit for. I don't know. He probably could have gotten rid of that ball faster. He ends up intentional grounding. The other one was a deep ball to Olave, which he missed. The other one was an Olave drop. Yeah. All right. I mean, just straight up
between the one and the two.
Maybe the worst drop Chris Olave's ever had. If he makes that catch, that makes Shough 10 of 12 for 80 to 85 yards. It was like a 15 to 20 yard pass. And it gives the Saints a first down with 2 minutes left in the half. And maybe they score some more points there. I think if Olave catches that pass, we're looking at Shough's day a little bit differently. He had no turnover-worthy plays. I don't remember him putting the ball in harm's way at any point. He may be, and this was against a Jacksonville defense that at least for the first quarter was playing mostly starters. Travon Walker was out there. A lot of their guys were out there. So I think the numbers kind of belie. I think Shough was pretty steady today. Was he good? He was not good. He was steady.
I said throughout, I truly believe this. That if you're putting Shough against Rattler, I think Shough's over the course of both preseason games, which is what I've seen. I'm not going to go by what people tell me they've seen in practice or practice stats, which are 100% meaningless. They are incredibly meaningless practice stats. So all I've seen is the 2 preseason games, and I would say that they are pretty even. There are things that Spencer Rattler has done better than Tyler Shough, but in the grand scheme of things, I think that if I had to pick one and say which ones, if you can't pick a tie, you got to pick one. I would say that Shough's probably been just a tinge better over the course of the preseason, but not much. Not much, really.
I'm laughing at me. You said you can't pick a tie, and we had a tie today. So
yeah, right.
So 17-17.
Right. Ties are terrible.
Yeah, it's funny the way it worked out.
Pretty funny.
I think Rattler is your probably higher reward, higher risk pick at this point. We're going to find out Kellen Moore's mindset for this year, I think. I think we both think that he will name a starting quarterback this week. I don't think they're going to keep this going into the Broncos game or through the Broncos game. I think that does a disservice to whoever is the eventual starter. It's a very close race, and so I think it comes down to mentality. Do you want, Shough's the guy I drafted. We think he shows upside. He seems like the safer pick. We're just going to go forward. And are we going to be great this year offensively? Probably not. But we're just going to play it safe and see what he's got throughout 17 games. If you go with Rattler, on the other hand, that to me says, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's roll the dice. Let's see what Spencer Rattler has. Is he going to make some mistakes and cost us some games? Yes. But is he going to go win us some games like he went and tied the game today? He may do that as well.
This is an interesting comment that kind of goes along.
Yeah, I've got it here. It's
Hemisphere.
Yeah, from Hemisphere. I did hear Moore say the starter will be determined when the players around him play better with him. I saw that in the second half. I didn't see that in the first half. Again, first team versus fourth team. Okay, that's I will say that.
But not just that. You only got one more preseason game. When are the players around him going to play better? I mean, you can't hold this out. I mean, to go to your point, what you said, I think you and I have both been saying this for a while now. It's not something new. I think it benefits this football team to know it's not like last year when you could wait and hold out and not tell anybody who QB2 was because it really didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. When you're talking about your starting quarterback It is much better to find out sooner rather than later. They cannot they can do whatever they want, but realistically, it's a major benefit to let everybody know probably this week, so you can go into this last preseason game knowing who that starter is, and just start to prepare. The earlier you can begin to prepare with whoever QB1 is going to be, the better off you're going to be going into that Arizona game, because Arizona certainly knows who their QB1 is, and RB1 and RB2 and wide receiver 1 and all that stuff. And so you're already in a hole. You got to name that this week.
I think so too. Lance says it wasn't who was better. They're both the same. It's who didn't shrink. Rat didn't start the season with him. If by week 5 he's clearly not the better QB, roll with Shough to see what we got. If Rattler starts, I think that's the plan. I think it's gonna be a 4 to 6 week audition, and then Shough will get his chance as well. But I mean, are we really saying Shough didn't shrink? Again, he was playing against first-team defenders. Rattler was playing against third and fourth stringers. Ultimately, he got it done. He threw the bad pick. I just don't know.
Lance, I know very well from Lance is a regular. He's a member of the Datitude family. Okay, so Lance has been in Spencer Rattler's a corner since last year. Okay, so if Lance is basically saying it's even, which is what he's saying there, then that tells you, look, I just think all things being even, unless, and you and I have talked about this, unless Kellen Moore just thinks they're going to start 0-4, and the best thing to do is let's roll with Spencer Rattler and see if he wins. If he does great and they go 2-2, then fine. Then it is what it is, and you actually keep trying to win. But I don't think he's going to do that. I just think it doesn't make any sense that he's not going to go with his guy. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It makes zero sense to me that he's not going to go with his guy from day one.
If Kellen Moore does not think Tyler Shough is ready, if he doesn't think he's ready, he will start Rattler for
he's no less ready.
Like Lance said, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever, until he sees in practice what he wants to see, or until Rattler is clearly not the guy. That I could see. There is no way Rattler starts this whole season. I just don't think he gets through a season playing well enough to where Shough doesn't get
a chance. They're both going to play. I mean, and see, that's another thing, too. No matter who starts game one, and I think we both agree on this. I think no matter who starts game 1, game 2, they're both going to start game. And I don't even care. Let's say neither one of them get injured, and neither one of them have to miss a game because of injury. They're both going to start multiple games this season. I think there's almost no question that that's the case. And again, whether it's in game 1 or game 4, Shough is probably going to get a majority of the playing time throughout the season, because they have to know where they are going to next year's draft. If this draft pick is as bad as we think it's going to be, they have to know if they need to go get a quarterback or not. Mm-hmm. There's only one way to know that.
Yeah.
So I think Spencer Rattler is going to start games. Tyler Shough's going to both start games. It's all about who you're going to start the season with. And I just think you're going to go with your guy. That's my prediction.
Okay, right or wrong. A couple of non-quarterback things before we let Jim go. Jeff Duncan is here. RB2.
Yeah.
Kendra Miller is the guy. I mean, I think we answered that question today.
Yeah, I think there's no question that he's the guy. He is, whether people think he should be the guy or not. I think obviously Kellen Moore wants him, thinks he is that guy. He started the game again, went into the second quarter, got plenty of handoffs, and I actually thought he looked pretty decent today. He made a lot out of nothing. Oh, he made something, not a lot. He made something out of nothing a couple times. Even a couple of his 1 and 2 yard runs where the line was on, they were on him in the backfield, and he was found a way to get back there. So I actually liked what I saw from Kendra Miller, and I think there's no question he's RB2.
And then the other thing would be the defense. Again, a lot of starters not playing. Jacksonville ran the ball pretty effectively with their first team. Scored a touchdown on 2 drives with the first team. Out of 2 drives, they scored 1 touchdown, I should say. Trevor Lawrence threw a touchdown pass. I will say the defense, I think, gets credit for 3 takeaways, and they were all 3 young players. Jonas Sanker, the interception at the end. Jalen Ford had an interception, and then Vernon Broughton recovered a fumble in the first half. So those to me are positive signs. How much does that carry over? Like it's a tip drill interception and it's a fumbled snap that you just happen to jump on. I don't know, but you like to see your defense be opportunistic.
Yeah, and it's the second game in a row. I thought that they were running around and I don't know, carefree is not the right word, but I thought they played better in this game. You're talking probably about a better offense in the Chargers game, but they didn't really play their ones. So I like what I saw out of the defense today. Again, especially against Trevor Lawrence. The first drive wasn't so great, but they end up getting in the red zone and getting the red zone turnover like you talk about, the big one. So let's see what we have there. Again, you're talking about vanilla. I don't know if you're exactly seeing what you're going to see when you get to the regular season.
A couple of other comments here. This is T-Mama. Ruiz has gotten worse. What's up with that? I don't know. Again, it's preseason. maybe just be patient with that. We'll see. Saint for life. Shough didn't have time. Pocket wasn't clean. Beautiful pass got dropped by Olave. All true. And John Carter wants to know who is tight end number 2 to start the season.
We've been talking about that for a while.
I'm going Jack Stoll, I think.
I think it's Stoll because of his experience. A great story. Was it Matthew Paris that wrote the story about the tush push? That was a really good story, by the way. Interesting story that he's kind of the one that led. We know that I think Spencer Rattler probably could run that tush push. I don't know if Tyler Shough could, but
throw a Trey Welch too. Had a nice catch of a Shough pass today.
But I don't know. Tight end 2 is a major problem. It's going to be probably.
All right, we will let Jim go, and he will make the handoff to our columnist, Jeff Duncan, here on the Saints Insider post-game show as we roll along live
tomorrow morning
from the Caesars Superdome. You can check Jim out on the Datitude podcast. Check out Datitude on YouTube or major podcast platforms. Jeff Duncan is here. Jeff, I'm going to open with this. I saw a tweet you sent right after Spencer Rattler threw his interception that said, it looked like Rattler had taken the lead in this competition, and then he goes and does that. Do you still feel like he is in the lead in this competition?
Yeah, I think so. I think he probably cemented the job tonight with that performance. I mean, I think this entire preseason's been about waiting on one of the quarterbacks to kind of make a statement, and that was certainly the most emphatic statement of any Saints quarterback in camp or preseason games so far. And you could see the reaction by his teammates on the sidelines. I mean, he definitely injected some much-needed juice and I think enthusiasm. This thing's been so close the entire time. Really, I think it took some kind of effort like that, I think, to create a little separation. And hey, man, that was the most exciting preseason tie game in NFL history, man. That was if anybody would be satisfied with a tie, it was the Saints today.
I was so ready to see Cam Little try a 70-yard field goal to win this thing for Jacksonville, like he hit last week. And instead, the Jaguars try to throw one more pass. It gets tipped and intercepted. Jonas Sanker stepped out of bounds a second too late, and we don't get a Blake Grupe kick for the winner or Charlie Smith kick for the winner, whatever it might have been. But it was exciting. I will say that does it matter to you that came against like guys who won't even be on the Jaguars roster?
No, I mean, look, it matters in that I don't care who wins the job between these two quarterbacks. What matters to me is the play around them, and right now it's not good enough. I think if it's Tyler Shough or Spencer Rattler, the offensive line play has got to get better, or they're not gonna have a chance. Tyler Shough struggled today in part because the offensive line again struggled. They're not blocking well either in the pass or the run game. And if they don't get that cleaned up, it's not going to matter who the quarterback is. And those were the starting offensive linemen for the most part. At least 4 of the 5 that are probably going to start the opener were out there with Tyler Shough today. And he was pressured a lot. I think he was sacked twice. That was the same thing that happened against the Rams out in the joint scrimmage, and also the same thing that happened against the Chargers in the preseason game. So I think whether it's Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shough, they're going to struggle without better play up front.
No doubt. We've gotten a couple of comments and questions specifically about Cesar Ruiz, who doesn't seem to be up to full speed yet. I don't know if that's just a preseason, hey, I'm feeling things out, or if that's actually an extra spot of concern the Saints have right now.
Well, I think by now we know what Cesar Ruiz is. He's, probably a mid-level starting guard in the league, maybe below average starting guard. And now with Trevor Penning out, you got Dylan Redens at the other guard. I mean, their guards right now are probably below par compared to the rest of the league. And you've got 2 young tackles who have a lot of talent, but they're going to have growing pains. So when you throw all that together, really you're looking at, some ineffective and inconsistent play across the board up front. And that makes it tough when you've got a young quarterback trying to find his way in the league. Right now, I think that needs to be better because of the investment the Saints have made up front. A lot of high draft picks, and we're just not seeing good enough play right now.
I dropped my phone where Patrick is feeding me comments, but a couple of these I want to get to. Brian Russell says they let Fant leave the building. Who's making the decisions? I think the Saints wanted Fant. Fant didn't want to be here.
Yeah,
he wanted to go play for a winner. So.
Yeah, I think people need to understand that. That's one of the things that happens when you go through these rebuilding phases, when you have inexperienced quarterbacks, uncertainty at quarterback. It's difficult to get free agents to play, to come. And it takes 2 to tango, as they say. And you have to get the other side to want to buy in. Now, that might change here as the season starts Whereas it gets closer and players start getting a little more desperate for a paycheck, they may be able to, lure some of these guys here. But there's a reason Keenan Allen didn't come here and sign with the Chargers. They just got much brighter prospects. We saw the other side of that when Drew Brees was here and the Saints were rolling. They got the benefit of the doubt on a lot of free agents. They actually were able to get guys to come here that probably would have gone somewhere else for more money, but they came here for less money because the opportunity was better. And it's just the opposite shoe right now.
Yeah, no doubt. Nathan says, are you kidding? Rattler did his against the third and fourth string. Needs to do that with the ones. Olave messed up Shough's drive. I do think there's some truth to that. Like if Tyler Shough finished 9 of 12, and let's talk about how Shough looked, because he was sacked twice. He had the intentional grounding, which was ugly. He tripped, which caused one sack. Those sorts of things. He did finish 9 of 12 for 66 yards. If Olave makes that catch, he's at 10 of 12 for 80-something yards, and the drive is still going. They're inside the 30 with 2 minutes to go in the half. Maybe his numbers go up from there. I don't think he was bad. Like I watched Rattler play first against the Chargers and thought, boy, he didn't look very good. He looked very conservative. I thought Shough was better than that against the Jaguars ones. However, he did have, plenty of negatives too, as we mentioned.
Well, I mean, I think it comes down to simply, are you putting points on the board? And he had one field goal in the entire first half. Rattler had 5 offensive possessions, 3 scoring drives, and then a red zone INT, which Luke McCown just corrected me on. I don't know if I needed correction. I just said he threw an interception, but he said that was on the receiver on that play, not on the quarterback, that he's got to not flatten that route out the way he did, or flatten it out better than he did. But the point is, he was down in the red zone basically on 4 or 5 drives, or at least in scoring areas. So I just think Rattler outplayed him. I don't think Shough played bad. I mean, you can both play okay. He was definitely going against better players. I mean, the starters, for the most part, for the Jaguars were out there for the first half. And they, like I said, they got after the Saints up front. And that's what concerns me. Regardless of who starts this season, I think people are so caught up in who's going to start week 1. And that's not the answer here. Is who's the long-term quarterback for the Saints? And I don't think we really know who that is. We're probably not going to know that in week 1. We may not know by the end of the season who it's going to be. And I think there's 2 different paths here. We talked about this on the podcast the other day. There's a short-term plan and there's a long-term plan. And I think short-term right now, Spencer Rattler is probably in the lead now to start week 1.
Yeah, I think that's right. And Jim and I talked about that too, where Rattler could easily start this season. And then if he continues to struggle, maybe it's his problem, maybe it's an O-line problem, whatever. At some point, the season will go south, and then you give Tyler Shough his audition before you figure out what to do next year.
Right, and figure out if you do have the long-term answer in the building. And I think that's what this season's all about for the most part. I'm pretty discouraged, to be honest with you, about the way this team looks overall. I know the starters aren't playing. I know that. I'm very aware of that. But there's just not very much depth here. Normally, a second-team offense and defense looks a lot better than what these units look like. And there's going to be injuries. There's going to be attrition. It happens to every team in the league. San Francisco's got 21 guys on the injury report. So it's the way this league works. You've got to have guys on those second-team units on both sides that can play. And it's just depth shy right now on both sides of the ball. Right now, these units really aren't very competitive for the Saints.
No, particularly not against the equivalent of the other team, the first or second team from the opposition. Catching up on some more comments, Michael says, why so much zone defense? I mean, that's Brandon Staley. Like. That's what we're going to see. Saints fans are not used to that, but they're going to have to get used to that. So
that's what really, to be honest with you, I mean, the whole league kind of is going more and more zone coverage, preventing explosive plays. I mean, we see what happens lots of times in these one-on-one opportunities. You get up with a 45-yard pass interference call against you, the way the Jaguars had it today. And we saw plenty of that from Dennis Allen's defense over the years. Just the way the league's going, there's going to be a lot more zone, a lot more forcing people to dink and dunk down the field.
Yeah. I just think that's the way it's going to go. Speaking of the defense, though, 3 takeaways. In some ways, those were giveaways more than they were takeaways, at least a couple of them. But you still got to make the play, and I think a positive for the Saints to see 3 young guys come up with those takeaways.
Yeah, I think more than how it affected the game, it's about young players flashing and getting a chance, because the guys that were on the field today were on the field for a reason. They're trying to make this roster. They're the bottom of the roster. The coaching staff's looking those last probably 8 spots. Who they're going to go to war with this year. So for guys like Jalen Ford, I mean, that's a huge play for him. That was a big red zone. And basically preserved the tie opportunity by making that interception, because they were going to probably get a field goal out of that. So that was a huge play for a guy that needed to make a play like that. And, Sanker is obviously going to be on this team, but, they need depth at safety beyond their 2 starters. And I think he made a case today. He's playing a ton of reps right now in the preseason. And I know we haven't talked about offense, but to me, Mason Tipton has been the best receiver the Saints have had all camp. He's leading the team in receptions now. He had 100 yards receiving, 6 catches today. Another big play. We drew a big pass interference call to set up a field goal. That is encouraging, because the Saints, we've talked about, really haven't had a third receiver step up. I think it's going to end up being Brandon Cooks because of his status, because of his experience. But it's nice to see another option in case somebody goes down.
Yeah, he's knocking on the door of that for sure. A couple of comments kind of echoing what Jeff Duncan is saying here. Rapsodel says, Rattler, Tipton, and the rookies are the winners of this game. Foskey needs to go. God, we need the starters to stay healthy. These backups I can't trust. That is the preseason in a nutshell right there, I think.
I think they can possibly thread the needle this year if everybody – their starting units here will be competitive enough to compete in the NFL. There's no doubt. But eventually attrition takes its toll. There's going to be injuries, and I just don't see the backups here. I mean, they're another full draft and off season away from kind of getting back on track.
I think that, the Saints are due a year where they have fewer injuries, but everybody's, even if you have a lucky injury year, you still got some, and that's going to be tough. And then Ricardo says Mason Tipton's play should motivate every receiver on the roster. He's going to make this team absolutely. One more thing for you, Jeff, before we move on to Matt. 6 days until the final preseason game, do you think we get the starting quarterback announcement from Kellen Moore in between now and then?
No, I don't think they'll. I think they will make that determination internally, but I don't think they're going to announce it for anybody. There's no reason to give up that competitive edge. They may make the decision. Maybe they keep some of it from us in practice so we can't see the number 1 reps. But I think at some point they've got to make that call and move forward so the whole team kind of knows who they can get behind.
So do you think we see both guys against the Broncos?
I don't know if any of them will play. I think Jake Haener might play the whole game.
Okay.
Maybe not, but I don't think you're going to read into it by what they do in the preseason game. But I think I saw enough today to go with Rattler. Let him start the season. Again, I'm not too caught up in who starts week 1. I don't think it's not going to surprise me if both these guys play a lot this year. And who starts the opener, I know is the hot button issue, but long term, who's the quarterback, if they have him in the building, that the Saints can build around, because they're clearly a team right now in transition and rebuilding mode, and it starts at quarterback, and they got to get that answer this year.
All right, he's Jeff Duncan. You can read his work at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, and we'll let Jeff make the handoff to Times-Picayune beat writer Matthew Paris, who just came from locker room or press conference? Locker room. And who did you talk to?
Just got done talking to Torricelli Simpkins about him playing basically the entire game again. It was fun to hear his story, which you can read about because that'll be my sidebar. And then talk to a lot of guys who made individual plays. Trayton Welsh made a nice catch on that contested catch from Tyler Shough, and also Dante Pettis talked a little bit about the end of the catching that touchdown from Spencer Rattler. And guys need moments like this because they're all fighting for a roster spot, and I thought those guys had pretty good days.
It was one of the more exciting 17-17 preseason games you'll ever see, maybe the most exciting.
Sure, sure.
Not very many options in that bucket, but I look. We'll start with the quarterbacks because that's what everybody wants to talk about. Jeff just got done saying he thinks Rattler has probably won this job. Are you in agreement there?
I don't know. I would at least give it another week. Like I would understand if the Saints don't play either of those guys in the third preseason game, but I think it's really close right now. And even though Tyler Shough didn't have that wow moment, that Spencer Rattler did today or that Shough had last week,
I'd still give him another chance because I just feel like it's that close. I didn't think he looked bad by any means. The pressure stuff was a little iffy, but that was about it. He was still accurate on time with the ball. He was getting out fast. And, if these guys are both relatively even, and you're asking, like, all right, what's best for the Saints this year? Is it to evaluate Tyler Shough for the whole season? Then those kind of questions come into play.
Yeah.
So I thought Spencer Rattler, it was really encouraging for him to kind of bounce back from last week. It was a lot more aggressive, bounce back from a mistake that he threw, that interception. But I don't know. I feel like it's pretty close right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think Rattler's numbers were obviously better today, 199 yards and the touchdown, but that was the opposite last week. The guys with the better numbers are playing the third and fourth string defenders. So how do you evaluate that? I will say this for Shough. I've brought this up a couple times. He was 9 of 12 for 66 yards. Chris Olave doesn't drop a pass that he catches 99 times out of 100. And that's now 10 of 12 for 80 to 85 yards. And they continue on that drive. Shough probably gets more points. So I'm with you. It's hard to evaluate.
Yeah, and the Jags were playing their starting defense today. Like, that was the valuable part of Shough's day, is that he got to see like a real life pass rush again. And it was, both of these quarterbacks, I think, deal with pressure a little iffy, but you got to avoid sacks. That's something that Shough didn't really do today. He was sacked twice. Once he tripped over himself. The intentional grounding was not good, but you need to kind of just bounce back from that. And that's what I've been impressed by both of these quarterbacks is at their lows, they've kind of each responded every time.
Yeah. A couple of comments that echo what Matt's saying, or at least go along with them. Saint for Life says Simpkins definitely will get an opportunity to make the roster and get playing time. Brian Cavett says, I like what Velus Jones Jr. is showing. They need to find a spot for him. One thing you can read on NOLA.com/Saints right now, you wrote about 5 guys who help their chances to make the 53-man roster today. Are those? I don't know if those guys are in that list, but who was on your list?
Jones wasn't, but Welsh from earlier. I think that contested catch. Because Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau are hurt, I think there's a big opportunity for a guy like Jack Stoll and the 7th-round rookie Matavao to kind of make the roster or fight for a roster spot. Another guy I thought had a nice day was Isaiah Stallbird. That special teams tackle he made was like that. That's his path to the roster, right? We've seen the Saints keep JT Gray because of his special teams prowess. Is Stallbird another one of those guys? Kendre Miller on the surface, his stats weren't anything impressive. I think he averaged 3.5 yards a carry, but he showed something to me in that I think he's clearly the number 2 running back right now.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago when I did a roster projection, I didn't have Kendre Miller making it. I'll eat crow on that one. I have him making it now. I think he's clearly cemented himself as the lead back behind Alvin Kamara, and I think how he's practiced and how he's performed lately has kind of solidified that. He had a really nice strong run today, that 13-yard gain on third down, hit another nice long run, wiped out from a holding penalty. And, you just need moments like that. So Stallbird, Welsh, Miller, Mason Tipton, obviously, and then Jalen Ford, their 5th-round rookie from last year, had that interception. That really kind of turned the momentum of the game because the Jags quarterbacks were wheeling and dealing before then, and that kind of changed the momentum, I think, a little bit.
All right. Any other final thoughts from today, Matt, as we go into a short week heading into the 3rd preseason game? No,
I just think this quarterback competition is really close. As nice as it was to see Spencer Rattler respond, I don't know. I've been impressed by the strides Tyler Shough has made, and that makes it a lot more closer than it was early in camp.
All right, he's Matthew Paris, 1-time Picayune Saints beat writer. Handing off to the other one, that's Luke Johnson. I assume you were, if he was in the locker room, you were at the press conference.
I was at the press conference.
Kellen Moore and the quarterbacks. What are your takeaways from that?
Well, I think that just let's start with the game, right? I think that that in the last couple of weeks, Tyler Shough has been kind of gaining on Spencer Rattler, and in my opinion, I think today Rattler was like, "This is my job." I honestly I have no problem with the way Tyler Shough played, but I think that Rattler has outperformed him for a big chunk of this camp, and then today I think was just kind of the icing on the cake for that, for me. And I know Matt just came on here saying it's really close. I still think it is close, but look, you got an opportunity to lead a drive, and you don't have any of your starting offensive linemen out there. You don't have any of the starting receivers out there, and he looked really sharp, and he looked calm under pressure, and he got them where he needed to be, and really they've got 14 points in the second half today, 3 in the first half, and that's I think that tells a little bit of a story there too.
Paris News says this race is still too close to call. The Luke News Network is maybe making the call for Spencer Rattler there.
I mean, look,
Steve Kornacki hitting the.
I think it could still be Tyler Shough. I just think I'd be more surprised if it was now than I would have been 48 hours ago.
Yeah, I guess the other big question here is the timing of it. Whether we find out about it publicly or not, do you think Kellen Moore is going to make the call internally this week? Who the starting quarterback is?
He said today in his post game remarks that the sooner the better, that he can make a decision there, and I think there's reason for that, right? Like you want your team to know, you want your quarterback to know, like you as a staff want to know, because they're already putting their game plan together for Arizona, I'm sure, and parts of it, right? Mm-hmm. So they want to know which guy is going to be there, and I think it'd be better to know that this week than it would be to know after the third preseason game, when then you're already in game mode at that point. So will he announce it this week? I hope so. Will they make a decision this week? I think so. We'll see what happens. I guess they'll probably be back out there on Tuesday. We haven't gotten the schedule for this week yet, but it'd be nice. It'd be nice to get that out of the way, because I do think it has been like they have made it kind of tough on him. Right. No,
I agree. And I mean, like, God of Fire has a comment here. Why are you down on Rattler playing backups when Shough did the same last week? But I think I'm not down on Rattler playing backups. I just think that's part of the evaluation. And you say if Shough had done the same thing against fourth stringers, you have to give the same caveat.
Yeah. I mean, yes. Tyler Shough was going out there with Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen playing at the ends.
He also had the starting offensive line and
guys. All of that goes into this. But I think ultimately what the Saints are looking at is not necessarily like who they're playing against. Like that's part of the decision making factor. But it's how do they operate the offense? How do they handle pressure when it's there? Are they making the correct reads? Like even Spencer Rattler's interception today was the correct read, right? It ended up being like traffic with Mason Tipton, who didn't finish his route off. And Kellen Moore kind of took that onus on himself, saying like I probably called that play too many times. It's like an RPO play with a little mesh on the outside, and Jaguars recognized it, jumped it. Tipton got caught up in the wash, and it was a big interception that killed the scoring drive. But like even that, when they're evaluating it, they're like, okay, Spencer made the right read on this play, not the right outcome, but like that's not necessarily all on Spencer Rattler's shoulders.
Right.
So yes. They are going to look at who they're playing with, etc. That is like an important part of the decision-making calculus here. But I think there's so many other things that go into it.
Everything else besides the QBs. Let's kind of run down the list. Kendry Miller looks like he is RB2.
I think I can write that one in pen. I think he's going to be the guy backing up AK at least to start the season.
And then. I don't know, man. Like, we got a long look at the Saints offense against a mostly first-team Jaguars defense, which was nice. The Saints didn't have every starter out there. Eric McCoy, Alvin Kamara weren't out there. That offensive line is problematic.
Yeah, look, they've got some work to do, right? I think I'll have to go back and watch it. I think the tackles held up okay. But, one of the problems they're having right now, and I think this makes sense when you're talking about some moving pieces in there, no Eric McCoy in there. They're having a lot of problems with those like stunts in games, which teams are going to throw a lot of at them because they've got young linemen outside of Cesar Ruiz and Eric McCoy. So they got to get better at like the communication aspect. They got to get better blocking the run. Like this is a strength for these guys.
Yeah.
Tali Fuaga, Kelvin Banks, Trevor Penning, obviously not out there today, but like that's the bread and butter of those players, and it's not showing up so far in the games. They've got to improve, I think, between now and the start of the regular season.
And then staying on the offensive side of the ball, the other guy I'll mention is Mason Tipton. I mean, we've been asking for him to show it in games.
It's 2 straight podium games for old Tipton.
There it is.
How about that? He walked up. He's like, yeah, I'd like to make a habit out of this. Because, look, he was great in training camp for about 2 weeks last year. Popped every day. We all wrote about him. Then he got hurt. And then he didn't play in the preseason. Then he didn't do anything in the regular season. He had to show he could do it in games. And he had the one nice play last week. Showed he could do it in that sense. And then this week was something completely different. I don't know, what was his final stat tally? I think he had 3 catches, or was it 4?
Yeah, I'll look it up real quick here.
But he had the big 46-yarder. He had a 4th down conversion. I think went for 16 yards.
How about 6 catches for 100 yards?
There you go.
Anybody play preseason fantasy football?
And he had a 26-yard catch down on that final drive that set up the scoring play. That's exactly what you want to see, right? And it's not just one thing that he's doing. He's winning on. He won on a slant, won on a sideline route, he won on a deep route. He drew a big defensive pass interference penalty. Like, you want to see that totality of his game, and I think we're starting to see that a little bit, which is, it's good.
Yeah,
it's good. I still want to see it in the regular season to say he's going to be a factor for this team, especially considering the fact that he's like the same size as their top 3 receivers. That's a problem for me, but I think it's important that he's showing it in this setting, and hopefully he can do something like that in the regular season.
On the defensive side, we didn't see as many Saints starters. A lot of guys still sitting out.
I think 9 or 10 starters, depending on your definition of a starter. Yeah,
it's a couple of injury concerns there, Alontae Taylor, but also guys just sitting out. So not nearly as clean of a look on that side of the ball. That said, I think there's legitimate depth concerns. I don't know, the tackling looked bad in the first half. The run defense still didn't show a lot of improvement. Again, talking about backups, but
it can't be just the Devon Godshaw show in the room, right? Like, he can't be so critical that the run defense kind of falls apart without him in there. And this is 2 straight weeks we haven't seen him play in the preseason, and I don't think they've looked very good against the run in neither of those games. We're seeing some tackling problems, which I think you're probably going to see. Having not watched a ton of preseason football, you're probably going to see a lot of that around the league just because they can't tackle in practice. Like, this is their first real opportunity for live tackling reps.
Yeah.
But it needs to be better than it was today. But again, this is no Chase Young, no Carl Granderson, no Devon Godshaw, no Demario Davis, no Pete Werner, no Justin Reed, no Julian Blackman, no Kool-Aid McKinstry. We're talking about their entire starting defense.
Right.
So I'm going to take pretty much all of what I saw today with a massive block of salt. But with the understanding that they can't have a season like they had last season on the offensive side of the ball where they're missing a bunch of guys and think they're going to have even remotely close to the same success as they would with all the guys.
Yeah, an issue. That said, some guys popped. You had 3 young guys all get takeaways, and I think some positive things too.
Yeah. Vernon Broughton recovered a fumble, and Jonas Sanker obviously had the interception late. That was a tip drill from, you remember who got the tip? It was Rajon Wright.
Yeah.
Rajon Wright got the tip, but Sanker made the play. I think you're seeing some good things out of Jalen Ford's a second-year guy who spent most of last year hurt. Him making an interception was big. That was a nice read and react play by him. So they've got some guys there that you feel pretty good about. But it's they still need their stars to be what I truly think they're capable of. Is they've looked really good under this Brandon Staley defense, even in joint practices. I thought they looked. A guy like Chase Young is really important to what they do. Godshaw, really important. Their starting safety is really important. So it's hard for me to take too much away from these preseason games, considering all the people who are sitting on that side of the ball.
Yeah. All right. So Luke Johnson, we'll let you go. One final thought, I guess, heading into this short week, only probably 3 full practices this week, and then the last preseason game. What are you looking for before the Saints lace them up on Saturday?
Are they going to name a starting quarterback? That's all I really want to know this week. I want to know if we're going to be doing this again next week, where we're parsing over preseason performances, trying to say who's got the lead, who should it be, etc. Please let me know. Kellen Moore, if you're watching, let me know.
Text me. All right. He's Luke Johnson. Right. You can read his work on NOLA.com/Saints, as well as the last guest we'll have on the postgame show.
Check out Rod's shirt. It's a good shirt.
And that's Rod Walker. That is a good shirt. It's high quality.
It's good. It's a waffle net shirt. It's a good shirt.
Can we zoom in on the shirt? Maybe not. Maybe not. All right. 17-17 tie, Saints and Jaguars. Are you just buzzing from that finish in this preseason?
This game was a dud, and all of a sudden it kind of got some interest in it was better. The fans cheering at the end. So yeah.
We had the uncertainty of Cam Little trying a really long field goal to win it for Jacksonville, and then all of a sudden it looked like Blake Grupe or Charlie Smith might get a chance. And I was kind of pumped at the finish, but I'll just read the quarterback stats one more time. Spencer Rattler, 18 of 24, 199 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, a rating of 95.7. Tyler Shough, 9 of 12, 66 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, a rating of 87.5. Are you in the too close to call camp still, or do you think Rattler kind of took this bull by the horns?
No, I'm still a little too close to call, but I think Rattler obviously won today. And I think if they start a game tomorrow, he would be the starter. I think he's a little bit ahead, but yeah, I don't know if I call it yet. And one of the things that Kellen Moore talked about is that, you watch the game, you see the stats, but then he has to look at the film, and that sometimes there are things that we don't see or we might not notice. Like even on the interception, Mason Tipton talked about after the game that it was his fault, but he should have run through that and got to the ball before the cornerback did. And he sort of apologized to Spencer Rattler after, because he said it was totally his fault. So a lot of things like that we don't really see it. We just see an interception, and so we don't really know a lot about what's going on the play. So, but again, I would still give Rattler the edge for sure.
Yeah. And I apologize. I just got the message that our connection may have just glitched there for a few minutes. So apologize if that's the case, but hopefully we're back good now. Visiting with Rod Walker, Times-Picayune, NOLA.com columnist. And I don't know, Rod, what column do you write from today? What is the big picture takeaway here?
I think for me, it's just that, going to the game, we thought that maybe somebody would separate themselves, and I don't know if they quite did yet. I think we got another week. I think the Denver game next week is going to be really important to finally make. At some point, Kellen Moore has to make a decision, right? So I think the Denver game will be when he has to make it. I still don't think there's quite enough out there, because you look at last week, I think Shough won. I think this week Rattler won. So
you think both guys play again Saturday?
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
Not ideal for your third, your last game, you sort of want to have a decision made, but I do think that they'll both get some reps in. I just don't think they've made a decision yet. But, he may look at the film and say, you know what, I think Rattler's the guy for right now, which is kind of the way I was leaning anyway. Like, you kind of say Rattler starts beginning, things go south, then you can, throw Shough in. But so we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I don't know. You try to envision, if you start Spencer against the Arizona Cardinals in 3 weeks, do you have a chance at winning this game? And then same thing, if you start Tyler Shough, do you have a chance at winning this game? I want to drill down on Shough just a little bit. His stat line, 9 of 12, 66 yards, certainly nothing special. He tripped himself into a sack. He had the intentional grounding. There were some mistakes, but generally speaking, no turnover-worthy plays. His line was cut short a little bit by Chris Olave dropping that last pass. I do think generally, considering he's playing against a number one defense, I was mostly encouraged. That doesn't mean Rattler didn't win the job today, but I thought Shough showed some maturity today.
I think once you got past that first series, I thought he played well. He made some good plays. You missed the Olave drop, that was going to be like a 24, 25-yard gain there, and extends the drive. And maybe you even score there. He didn't get a touchdown this week. Shough didn't, but I think he was okay.
Yeah,
I don't know if either one of them are like, you don't go into a game and say, oh yeah, we found our guy. Like, we just haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it'd be nice, but I don't think we have. Yeah, I do wonder if Chris Olave catches that, and even if the Saints just end up with a field goal, because that would have been down to the 25-yard line. They probably get at least a field goal there. I wonder if that colors how we think about Shough, that he then led 2 scoring drives out of 4 chances, even if they were both field goals, and he was probably then up to 100 yards passing or close to it. We might be thinking about this differently. But I think on the flip side, Rattler throws the pick, which was kind of a busted play, and then goes out there and leads a really impressive 2-minute drive. So you that's a positive sign too.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what we saw last week. Shough threw the pick and responded. This week, Rattler threw the pick and he responded. So again, neither player has just been consistent enough to grab that starting job yet. To me, that's the problem, that no one has stepped up and just took it by the reins, because it's kind of been right there for both of them, and they just haven't been able to do it.
Yeah. Hakeem says Rattler looks more comfortable in his decision making and uses his legs well too. I like Shough's toughness, but he's still also late on going 1-2-3. I don't know if that means progressions, but yeah, I still think there's growth there for Shough. All right, so we'll leave the quarterbacks aside. What are your other kind of top headlines from this game?
For me, Mason Tipton just continued to play well. He's been
100-yard day.
Yeah. Been really good throughout training camp and has carried it over to the games both weeks. So that's good to see. We've talked all season about the third receiver, and I think he's probably the third receiver now. He's ahead of Brandon Cooks as far as productivity. I think he's been their most consistent offensive player. On the flip side, I think Cesar Ruiz, I'm a little concerned about his play so far, and this isn't watching the film. Just a couple of plays, you saw that he, just seems like he's taking a step back from where he was last year. And I mean, if this offensive line isn't good, I mean, we've talked about this. If they're not good, then this team is going to struggle, regardless of who's at quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I find it interesting. I guess I hadn't thought through it all. And Luke said it was like 9 starters not playing today. Is that a sign that they're pretty confident in this first team defense, or is that just we don't want anybody to get hurt? I do find that notable that these defensive starters, 9 of them haven't played a single snap in the preseason.
Yeah, I think it's a little of both. I mean, I think the depth is thin on defense, and they feel like they need to, reserve these guys until the season starts. But I do think they are confident in the defense. I think you got a lot of veteran guys on that side of the ball, so they don't need to be out here in a preseason game against Jacksonville. So for me, I'm comfortable with that. I think the biggest concerns of this team are definitely on the offensive side of the ball, and I think we'll see that next week as guys play.
Yeah,
a lot.
We don't expect a lot of starters to play Saturday, but we will see. And we'll be back with a couple of Saints Insider podcasts before then. First one coming up will be on Wednesday. So keep it locked to the Saints at NOLA.com YouTube channel and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and sign up for notifications. For Jim Derry, Matthew Parrish, Jeff Duncan, Luke Johnson, and Rod Walker, and Norman Bell, who worked the camera today, Patrick McGee produced. This has been the Saints Insider postgame show.